The concept of distinguishing right from wrong has long been a challenge for humanity, with philosophers, theologians, and legal scholars struggling for centuries to establish moral and ethical principles that govern human behavior. In recent years, the development of artificial intelligence (AI) technology has raised the question of whether machines can be programmed to make moral and ethical decisions. The idea of machines making moral and ethical decisions is not new. Science fiction stories have long explored the concept of intelligent machines that can make moral and ethical decisions. However, until recently, the development of such machines has been considered a distant possibility. In recent years, advances in machine learning, neural networks, and natural language processing have brought us closer to developing machines that can understand human moral and ethical principles. The question of whether machines can distinguish right from wrong is a complex one that requires us to consider several different factors. First, we must consider what we mean by right and wrong. These concepts are often subjective and context-dependent, so any machine that is programmed to make moral and ethical decisions must have a deep understanding of the context in which it is operating. One approach to building machines that can distinguish right from wrong is to program them with a set of moral and ethical principles. This approach is based on the idea that there are universal moral and ethical principles that are applicable in all contexts. For example, a machine might be programmed with the principle that it is wrong to harm another human being, and that it is right to act in a way that maximizes the overall well-being of society. However, this approach faces several challenges. First, there is no consensus on what the universal moral and ethical principles are. Different cultures and traditions have different moral and ethical codes, and even within a single culture, there can be disagreements about what is right and wrong. Second, even if we could agree on a set of universal moral and ethical principles, programming a machine to apply these principles in all contexts is a daunting task. Another approach to building machines that can distinguish right from wrong is to train them on a large dataset of moral and ethical decisions. This approach is based on the idea that, by analyzing a large number of moral and ethical decisions made by humans, machines can learn to make similar decisions. For example, a machine might be trained on a dataset of court decisions to learn how to make decisions about whether a particular action is legal or not. This approach has several advantages. First, it does not require us to agree on a set of universal moral and ethical principles. Instead, the machine learns from human decisions, which reflect the moral and ethical principles of the society in which it operates. Second, by analyzing a large dataset, the machine can learn to recognize patterns and make decisions that are consistent with past decisions. However, this approach also faces challenges. First, the dataset used to train the machine may reflect biases and prejudices that are present in the society in which it was created. For example, if the dataset used to train the machine is biased against certain groups, the machine may learn to make decisions that are unfair or discriminatory. Second, the machine may not be able to recognize new situations that are not represented in the dataset. This means that the machine may make decisions that are inappropriate in novel situations. A third approach to building machines that can distinguish right from wrong is to create machines that are capable of ethical reasoning. Ethical reasoning is the process of considering the moral and ethical principles that apply to a particular situation and weighing the potential consequences of different actions. This approach is based on the idea that, by developing machines that can reason ethically, we can create machines that are better able to make moral and ethical decisions. Developing machines that can reason ethically is a complex task that requires a deep understanding of human moral and ethical reasoning. However, recent advances in the field of cognitive psychology and philosophy have provided a foundation for the development of ethical reasoning machines. One example of a machine that uses ethical reasoning is the Moral Machine, developed by researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. The Moral Machine is an online platform that presents users with a series of moral dilemmas, such as whether a self-driving car should swerve to avoid hitting a pedestrian or stay on course and hit the pedestrian. The platform asks users to make a decision, and it records the decisions made by millions of people from around the world. The data collected is then used to train a machine learning algorithm to make ethical decisions. The Moral Machine uses a variant of the trolley problem, a classic thought experiment in ethics. The trolley problem involves a runaway trolley heading toward a group of people on a track. The only way to stop the trolley is to flip a switch that will divert the trolley onto a different track, where only one person is standing. The question is whether it is morally permissible to flip the switch, killing one person to save several others. The trolley problem illustrates the difficulty of making moral decisions in situations where there are competing values and interests. The decision to flip the switch involves balancing the value of human life against the value of minimizing harm. Different people may make different decisions based on their own moral and ethical principles. The moral machine is an attempt to capture these complexities in a machine learning algorithm. By analyzing the decisions made by millions of people, the algorithm can learn to make decisions that reflect the moral and ethical principles of society. For example, if the majority of people who use the moral machine decide that it is morally permissible to divert the trolley, the algorithm will learn to make the same decision. The moral machine is just one example of a machine that uses ethical reasoning to make moral and ethical decisions. However, there is still much work to be done before we can create machines that can make moral and ethical decisions in all contexts. One of the biggest challenges is developing machines that can understand the context in which they are operating. Understanding context is essential for making moral and ethical decisions. For example, a decision that is morally permissible in one context may be morally impermissible in another context. If we want machines to make ethical decisions, we need to develop a deep understanding of the context in which they are operating. This requires not only a knowledge of the physical environment, but also an understanding of the social, cultural, and historical factors that shape human behavior. Another challenge is ensuring that the machines we create are transparent and accountable. If a machine makes a decision that has negative consequences, it is important to be able to trace the decision back to its source and understand how it was made. This requires not only transparency in the algorithms used to make decisions, but also accountability for the decisions themselves. In conclusion, the question of whether AI technology will be able to distinguish right from wrong is a complex one that requires us to consider a range of factors. While there is no consensus on how to build machines that can make ethical decisions, recent advances in machine learning and ethical reasoning have brought us closer to this goal. However, much work remains to be done before we can create machines that can make ethical decisions in all contexts. Developing machines that can understand the context in which they are operating and ensuring that they are transparent and accountable will be key challenges in the years ahead.